Today at E-MTB Review, I'm going to tell you all about this e-bike, which may be the best full-powered option available for the money, but you probably can't get one. Right? But you got to hear all about this bike. It is impressive. And what it is the Scor 4060 ZLT. It is a company by BMC, a road bike company. So they said, let's form it's our own division with its own brand, SCOR, Scor, and let them have our resources, but not constrain them with our, very high-end brand, which with very high-end components. So what is it? It is a all-mountain enduro bike, 160 travel, 170 in the front, 29er on both sides. It's running the Shimano EP8 motor. It's got a 720 watt-hour battery, and most important, it has a brand new suspension. It is a lower link suspension right there with everything down low, low center of gravity, supportive but active as well. They have two models. The XT, which I have here, this one can be had for $8,700, and they have an SLX model for $6,600. And when I say best for the money, I really want to talk about that $6,600 version. This one is good, but for the money, that one is a world beater. So on this XT version, 160, 170 travel on 29ers, Fox factory 38 in the front. We have the Float X on the rear, and we have XT all around. 4 piston brakes, 203 rotors, DT wheels, guys. And what's super interesting about this bike is it has two siblings. A short travel version, which has, I believe, 140, 150 travel, but it is the same frame. And you can convert this into the short travel and the short travel into the long travel. So when you make your tough decision on what to get, you're not locked in. You could change a couple parts and you have the other version. But the other sibling is even more fascinating. It is an analog bike, a mountain bike, no power. It is virtually identical to this. The only difference has no motor. And so you can have your cake and not eat it too, or you can have short travel, long travel, I have some really interesting stories because I've ridden all three bikes in one ride, and I have a lot of comparisons to share with you guys. So what makes this bike special? First and foremost, is really the suspension. Every bike is all about the suspension, and these guys at Scor, they invented a whole new suspension, and it's a lower link suspension, kind of similar to Evo, similar to the Enduro, very complicated, like a rearward axle path, co-rotating pivots, they told me, but what is the result is a very active suspension, but it's supportive as well, under pedaling, but it doesn't lock out, it doesn't hold you back with your e-bike power. It is coil compatible, so completely coil compatible, so you can put a coil in there. It's got some room. I'm going to talk about the geometry and the components. Geometry first. And you're always chasing that geometry game, right? And this one is the newest of the new. And it is a 63.8 head angle, pretty slack, lower than 64, right? And this one is a 77.9 seat angle. Crazy, that's the effective seat angle. And then get ready to get blown away. The chainstay length is 435 millimeters. It is insane because this is a 29er tire. A lot of 27.5 or mullet style bikes don't have a chainstay this short. Standover is decent at 731. We'll start with the stem. The stem is a Bergtech. It's a really cool brand these days, and it's a 35 millimeter. 35. Basically, that's as short as physics will allow, as geometry will allow. It's a 800 millimeter handlebar, in-house carbon bar, but nice sweep. They have a bike yoke dropper, Not the best bike yoke, but it does have 160 millimeters of travel for the medium size and the large guys. And then for the extra large, they give you 185. So they're really thinking it through, not just genericizing the spec. And then the subtle features, the subtle selections, I really cued on because I have a lot of experience with e-bikes. So this chainring is a 34 tooth chainring. That to me is really cool because I have so many e-bikes that have 32. That's for analog, that's for mountain bikes. When you have a motor helping you 3 times your power, you don't need to be in the granny all the time. You need a bigger chainring is what you need. You can actually help you distribute the load between those chainrings. So 34 is very cool. I could even go bigger than that. And the length of the crank is 165 millimeters. Can't tell you how cool that is. Because their suspension doesn't bob so much, it's supportive, you're able to get away with a kind of a normal crank length, 165. A lot of manufacturers, they go, crank, you're hitting my cranks. But man, you're going like this. You basically cannot help out the bike as much. You can't generate a lot of torque with 160 cranks. Okay, and then, let's mention the Shimano. Shimano on an e-bike is the best. It is the best. XT and SLX. Don't go for the XDR. It's a waste of money. Go for the XT, even SLX. XLX is a more positive thunk, when you drop the hammer and you're on power, which you're not supposed to do. But it happens. So really good components, drivetrains that are deliberate shifting that can handle an e-bike. And then the brakes are just awesome. 4 piston brakes, 203 rotors, front and rear. So on the cheaper model, the $6,600 version, what I really noticed is the suspension is RockShox. So the good RockShox stuff, but it's still RockShox. So to me, I prefer Fox on e-bikes. They seem to be more active for me. Okay, finally weight, 49.6 pounds for the XT. I believe it's 50 and a half for the SLX. So very decent weights, for a 720 watt-hour bike. And that's because they have carbon everywhere. But they do have Assegai and double down rear tire and big rotors. So what's not good about this bike? It's a first generation, so don't expect perfection. What's not good is everyone complains about the motor guard, or it's made of a brittle material, so it can't take a hit. I planted that thing on a log on my second ride and it cracked. So if you're doing a lot of that, this is a concern. There's armors available. They probably fixed the issue already. It's just a brittle material, so that's fixed. And then the main pivot point, the lower pivot point, is I've heard of issues breaking. One friend said they loosened up. They weren't spec'd and Loctited from the factory. Hopefully they're resolved already. But a few other guys are saying the main pivot point, the main pivot bolt is susceptible to failure if you're a heavy aggressive rider. So they're using a titanium option. I'm not sure where they got it from, but those are concerns on this bike. The paint is beautiful, purple rain, and then the other one is, I think, kind of a light green. Another one on the not so great department is it's a Darfon battery. If you're a Shimano EP8 and you want more than 630 watt hours, you have to go with a manufacturer. Usually make your own or go with Darfon. Darfon doesn't have the best charger. The battery is fine, but the charger is kind of chintzy. I can't read that light, and the battery port cover kind of sucks. So there you go. I hope you found that informative. The reason why you can't get one is, one, they didn't make enough, and two, because they're Shimano. Shimano just cannot supply as much components as people need. But those are just my theories. It was hard to get 6 months ago. Some friends were calling all over the country. Local bike shops would have it, and they would have it shipped to California. But today and yesterday, I've been looking, and I asked the community, can you get this bike? And the answer really was no, unless you want a small. And then some guys were like, oh yeah, you can get the analog mountain bike one. I go, nah, talking about the e-bike. So the e-bike, very hard to get. Hopefully they'll free up the supply chain in the coming months. But for now, it is kind of those hallowed grounds of at 6600 and 8700. Pretty darn good. All right, hope you found that informative.